Now, across the causeway, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad unveiled the name of his new political party last night, calling it Parti Pejuang Tanah Air, or Fighters of the Nation Party. He made the announcement on Facebook and his blog in the form of a Malay poem.
And two of its lines raised eyebrows here in Singapore. The two lines translate to, "Look at the Malays of the neighbouring country. Is their country still Malay?"
Law and Home Affairs Minister K. Shanmugam commented on this in his own Facebook post, adding, quote, "Wonder which country Dr. Mahathir is referring to." Dr. Mahathir didn't state outright that he's referring to Singapore.
Let's discuss this further with Malaysia Bureau Chief Shannon Teoh. Let's first talk about this poem that Dr. Mahathir wrote, Shannon. The two lines we highlighted earlier, "Look at the Malays of the neighbouring country. Is their country still Malay?" have raised eyebrows here. How have Malaysians, though, responded to the poem as a whole, and maybe those specific two lines as well?
Well, firstly, there isn't really much reaction specifically to those two lines. I think Malaysians largely don't look at Singapore as a Malay country. Just as some might ask if Turkey or Indonesia is specifically Muslim countries, right? But not all Malaysians think that that's necessarily a bad thing, that Singapore has been robbed from the Malay community. I don't think that's the lens. It's just that just like you wouldn't view China as a Malay country, you don't view Singapore as a Malay country. It's multiracial. That's all there is to it. But the response from Malaysians has largely been about the point on fighting kleptocrats or corruption. Opinion on this is kind of mixed, because yes, Bersatu, Mahathir's original party, was formed to defeat UMNO over the 1MDB scandal, but many are pointing out now that Najib was handed a 12-year sentence not by the new government. Of course, it was done by the courts, but it happened under the new government. So still mission accomplished on that front. And some are questioning whether corruption was worse when Mahathir himself was in power. So that kind of conversation is happening. And it's really on that focus about corruption and kleptocracy. That's where Malaysians are focusing on that poem.
Right. Shannon, poem aside, Dr. Mahathir says Pejuang will not align with either of the two largest blocs in Parliament. It's an independent party, so to speak. In that case, do you see Pejuang having the same political clout as Dr. Mahathir's former party Bersatu?
Well, I think very clearly he's still part of the opposition, so he was not going to be aligned to Perikatan Nasional, the ruling coalition right now. But I think what he's saying is that he's not aligned to Pakatan Harapan in the sense that there's a perception that PH, the main opposition coalition, doesn't have Malay interests as a priority. He's trying to say that I will fight against the government with the rest of the opposition, but our ideology, our philosophy is going to be different. There is a kind of Malay-centricness to it. So will Pejuang be as strong as Bersatu? It is kind of formed in the same context, where an opposition Malay-centered party going up against a government that we feel is corrupt or illegitimate, so on and so forth. Well, right now, I don't think there's going to be enough people deserting Bersatu to join Pejuang. We did see a few people defect from UMNO into Bersatu before the 2018 elections. I'm not sure those kind of numbers are going to be repeated. Now, for Pejuang to get there, well, maybe they do need to win first. But until this election, and we believe a snap election is going to be called anytime in the next few months, from now to then, there's a big question here about whether they can get their feet on the ground. Can they get enough candidates? It's going to be a rush job. So, on the one hand, the context is quite similar to Bersatu. On the other hand, not all of it is in the same kind of circumstance.
Right. Well, building on that point, Shannon, how does Pejuang's mandate differ from the other Malay-centric parties like UMNO and Bersatu?
Well, of course, you have PAS, which is an Islamic party, so that's one kind of party. The rest are more Malay nationalist parties. Now, I don't think it's going to differ much. I think what Pejuang wants to be is pretty much a Bersatu version 2, who was set up basically to defeat an UMNO government. So now Pejuang is here to defeat what is a Bersatu and UMNO government, but still be a Malay-centric party. So Mahathir and his cohort are saying Bersatu's been hijacked, so we need a new Bersatu, as it were, a new national Malay party that has a leadership that is ostensibly clean, or a leadership that has the Malay community, the interest of the Malay community as its foremost, and not our own personal interests. So that's basically why they've done Pejuang. It's supposed to be a replacement for a replacement for UMNO. That's the situation that Mahathir finds himself in.
So if it's a Malay-centric position, will Pejuang, or like what you mentioned, Bersatu 2.0, prove popular with the people? How have Malaysians reacted to the news of this new party?
Well, now you've got several parties claiming to represent the Malay majority. We spoke about them, UMNO, Bersatu, Pejuang now. Of course, PAS is an Islamic party, but largely they also represent Malays. In the opposition, there's also Amanah. Some multiracial parties which also say that we also are Malay-led, like PKR. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of parties out there. The fact that Malays are a significant majority, it makes it very compelling to have a Malay-centric party or a completely Malay party like UMNO or PAS. Now, if you look at Malaysia's history, many parties have tried to be multiracial, but eventually somehow they always become more representative of non-Malays. We are looking at PKR, we're looking at DAP. They say multiracial, they have Malay members, they have Malay leaders, but somehow they become more attractive to non-Malays. So I think Malaysians are a mix of being curious about this new party, but some are possibly jaded and wondering, well, Mahathir started a new thing and he's started a new thing again. He's criticized past prime ministers before. When is this ever going to end? And why can't he just get on the Pakatan Harapan bandwagon? Why can't he join a party there? If he wants a Malay party, Amanah's already there. There are these questions that are being asked. But I think overall, people aren't really going to be paying very close attention to this until the election comes. Now, as we mentioned, it could be in the space of a few months, maybe even before the budget, which is scheduled for November. It could be slightly after that, maybe in the first quarter. Everyone I speak to in government are expecting it to happen pretty soon.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Shannon. Fantastic points made. That was Shannon Teoh, Malaysia Bureau Chief for the Straits Times.